If nobody has called you crazy this year, you are playing life too safe. When I relocated to the UK at the age of 10, I was bullied because of the color of my skin. You cannot inherit other people's fear. You cannot inherit other people's limitations. If I say I'm driving 7 hours, it's light work for me, because I've done London to Lagos. I've never done a toy business or entertainment. I've never written the children's book. That stuff is hard.
I would say sometimes you have to be a little bit delusional.
Oh, you do not take no for an answer. Entrepreneurship is that battleground. Don't go borrowed and go quiet. Don't just gain attention and lose it. Every day I wake up and I think, how can I be of service to one person?
I believe business and entrepreneurship is very spiritual.
People say luck, some people say privilege. I say the God factor. The magic is in the doing. It's not in the thinking, it's not the wishing, it's not in the wanting, it's not in the waiting. It is in the action.
Welcome to Kindverse. I am super excited to have you sitting with me. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. It's great to be inside Kindverse. I think this is a special place. And I know we're going to have a great conversation. So
I love that. Yes. Well, to you watching, this is Kindverse, and buckle up because we're about to get into a spicy episode with Pelumi here. I'm so excited. Are you guys ready? All right, Pelumi. So I have seen, I have heard, and I get to experience. Your aura just sitting right there is amazing, right? But I do have a question to ask you before the passports. Okay, before the brand deals. Okay, or the business. Who is Pelumi?
And I always do emphasize that even with all of that, when we stay separate from the brand and stuff, I think one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make is what they do becomes their identity. And that is a major pitfall that I try not to avoid. So I'm not my work. I'm not what I do. Pelumi is a joyful soul that loves new experiences, meeting new people, and having great conversation. A bit on the background. I was born in Lagos, Nigeria. I spent my first 10 years there, and then I relocated to the UK. So that was my fundamental kind of my years. And for the longest time, I thought I was going to be a doctor, a scientist. So definitely very different to what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I actually went on to do a biomedical undergrad degree and went on to pursue a PhD in cancer research and human genetics.
You are hot.
I love it. And did a massive pivot. I think 2020, the big P year where everybody kind of like reevaluated what was important for them. And for me, travel was that thing that was just a constant. The newness, the excitement, the curiosity to see the world was always there. And yeah, I went full force into it. Co-founded the travel magazine at that point. And yeah, I've just always wanted to tell stories about places. I feel like that's what I've been led to do.
So, how was your first international trip? Okay, and actually, let me going back. So, I heard, a little bird whispered in my ear that you actually drove from, is it Lagos to UK?
Yeah, from the other one.
Like, I have so many questions. How long did it take you? What went through your mind? What was the objective? Like, run me through that process, because as a woman,
Yes.
it's very interesting to see you take on that journey.
Absolutely.
And by yourself, you would think, okay, maybe you had somebody with you, somebody keeping you company throughout the journey, but you was really by yourself.
By myself, me, myself, and I. For such an expedition, you kind of need a team. So usually you have someone in charge of driving and logistics and food and healthcare and camera crew. Usually it takes like a team of people.
Yeah.
So usually a camera person, logistic person, we usually try to figure out this journey. And I had to do it by myself. And just like you said, it was that message of women, what we are told we can and cannot do, and the space we are allowed to take up. And it was so important to have that representation. So driving from London to Lagos, across 16 different countries, more than 10,000 kilometers or miles, and took me 74 days alone.
I didn't even know
That detail was so important to do And as much as it's about travel, because that's a tool that I know how to show people what the message I'm trying to put about. The idea is that if you at one point ever thought it was impossible to do, driving from London to Lagos, I hope you see me do it. And you're like, oh, what else in my life have I thought was impossible? And that's the feedback I've got, people who that followed the journey, because it became a global movement of audacity or bravery of the fact that you can go the distance. And people have sent me message that, they quit their toxic job, or they relocate to a new country, or went back to school. I had a particular message from a 70 years old woman that would never be one I forget. And she was like, Pelumi, I bleed for 70 years. There were so many things I wanted to do that people told me I couldn't do. After seeing your journey, now I start to lead. Wow. And I'm just like, this is incredible. This is literally the journey. And this is what I wanted to put out there, that you can do the impossible.
I love that. And I love that. I believe, God put us on this earth with a purpose, with a skill, with a talent. And even when you do have to learn or upskill or improve, because we were all born with something special, right? So sometimes we kind of like have to tap within ourselves to discover that. So, looking at your profile, your story, I was like, I got some things on my list. Okay, let's get all of things to do.
I love that.
And it was very inspiring. It was very inspiring. So just like me, I know a lot of people are inspired. So kudos to you for that. That's amazing. So on that journey, what did that version of you not know? Because right now, with time come experience, right? And when you went on that journey, what are some things that you know now, whether it's about yourself, about your brand, that you did not know at that time? You was just like on a leap of faith, or, just going, because, the knowing isn't going.
Exactly. I love that. The knowing isn't the going. And, I think it's still true that Lily said is that most things are in hindsight. You kind of connect the dots in hindsight. We as humans always want to kind of predict what will happen. I had no idea that this would become a global movement. I remember going from 10K followers to almost 100K, and now sitting almost 500,000 in literally months. So your life can literally change. And the power of social media and choosing to share your story so vulnerably and getting amazing supporters, but naysayers too as well. And, leveraging virality and making an IP out of that and having ownership and creating a brand. I didn't know all of this was going to happen. I did not know that, I had strength within me. When they say when you get to the rock bottom, then you know how to climb up. I faced so much difficulty that if I threw my hands up in the air and said, you know what, I'm done. There was a whole car accident in a country that spoke a language I didn't speak, and I was confused and lost and, just scared as a normal human would be. And literally, Bible said, guys, that's it. Thank you. We made it all the way to Ivory Coast. That one too is enough. Nobody would have held me, but I was so determined. I was so in my grit and just kind of like, there's that tenacity that I did not know I had the bandwidth. And yeah, I just kept going. So those are a few things, just the global recognition, the community I was able to get, the brand deals, the impact from just going after one's dream was one I didn't imagine would happen. So having this conversation with you right now in Dallas is like, oh, that's
Exactly. I love that. All right. So now that we're talking about traveling, we're going to go a little bit into personality with the travel. So my question for you is, at what point did traveling, I know there's a purpose, there's a goal, there's an objective to tell the story, to educate people. But at what point did you shift your mindset from just a hobby and something you're passionate about to, okay, this is a brand? Or maybe you're getting like partnerships, like, okay, this is more than a hobby. I'm making money for this, So at what point did that shift happen?
like actually quite earlier on in my creator journey. So I've been creating content or putting content online since 2017. Okay. And at first was just like you said, personal diary, somewhere to document my journey. I was going through places that Black people didn't go to, which was like Eastern Europe, Albania, Kosovo, Montenegro, bro, like, what are you doing there? And I'm like, I take that Bible verse whenever my soul step up my feet upon his mind, quite literally. Like, I'm just like, I'll go anywhere I want to go to. And I was documenting it from my experience and just showing that these places are safe. And yes, they might, not be the most welcome inviting because they haven't said so that look like you, but it was important that the more we go to these spaces and take up space, the more important was to have that conversation and dialogue. So yeah, that was very, very important at the beginning of just kind of this is a hobby kind of thing. And then before Instagram started like just providing links to everyone, at some point you had to get like 10K followers. That was like the goal. That was the line at 10K. And that's when brands started engaging. I was like, no, I have 2K followers. I was like, oh, we call it small but mighty. Like, this thing is engaged community. There's a value proposition. And I started working with like videographers and stuff. So I started investing quite quickly in my brand, and seeing this as something. And yeah, I remember my first paycheck and start coaching people that they too can, that's always been the thing. And once anyone says it's impossible or it cannot be done or you need, I'm like, no, 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 no. We're going to dismantle this. We're going to find a new way to do it. So yeah, I think quite early on, I've always kind of like leveraged that brand deal and just taking it quite seriously. And that knowledge base prepared me for, the continuous growth after that. Absolutely.
Okay, so how intentional are you about storytelling? So when it comes to your storytelling, is it more so, you tell the stories that you think people want to hear? Or is it more so you're going from within, maybe you are in the country or you're working on something or even just building your brand and you just like, no, I have to tell this story. Like, there's not really a purpose to it, but I just want to story tell this. Or is it more so, no, this particular story would change people's lives. It's going to impact, it's going to touch somebody. Or, how do you?
Storytelling is such a powerful thing, and like I said, I've been traveling. I've visited 94 countries and counting. So I'm always on the road and you'll be surprised the things that connect with people. And you sometimes cannot orchestrate these things. So I believe that, yes, there's some curious points, as a content creator, you can do things like answer the public, which is basically the most searched questions. If people are going to certain places, what is the currency? What's the safety rules? You can create stories that answer those questions. So that could be like a content pillar. But there are also stories that people don't even know they're seeking. Like London to Lagos, I'm sure wasn't something that people have ever thought was a thing they wanted to be involved with or be at a dining table and sharing those, where's Pelumi today, conversation with their friends and loved ones. So sometimes you got to give people stories that they didn't even know they have. So a bit of balance. I think the most best stories are the most authentic ones. They are not so orchestrated. They're just kind of like, I was so documented rather than actually created or scripted. Yeah. So it's like it's already unfolding and and that's what I did. Most times when I go to places, just kind of what is happening? Was this kind stranger I met or was this person I engaged with? Was the dialogue we're having? So it's mostly just capturing it as it happens rather than try to preempt it or but yeah, there's an art to it and it takes a lot of practice.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, I asked because I also storytell. I love storytelling. But I know just like a lot of other people, I experience challenges with storytelling because sometimes when I, tell the story, I'm like, am I getting too deep? Is it getting too personal? Do I tell this detail? Do I talk about this? Or do I just keep it genuine, just be yourself and just tell a story, right? So yeah, that definitely resonates.
And about storytelling is also just we are living in a society of attention.
Yeah.
And we, as anyone who is online, you have such a great upper hand. Back in the day, we used to like see it to like cable networks and stuff like that. We as creators are the new kind of like media. So, brands have to have a platform, businesses have to have a platform and really share your story, how the story, behind the scenes story, building communities, that community that you create would go with you anywhere, whatever you choose to do. So I think it's so important to start looking at yourself. as a media house in a way, kind of like what are you putting out there? What's your brand perception? What's your personal brand? How do you want to leverage that? And when people love, they like you, they know you, they're likely to buy from you too as well. So there is this thing where you just have to hone down and it's quite exciting to build.
All right. So with storytelling, with entrepreneurship, whether it's personal brand, business brand, I know you come across, pretty challenging people sometimes or difficult people, if I should say. As a brand, we have this whole online media thing going on with, you got to be careful because you would get exposed, right? Even if, you are a great person, things happen, misunderstanding, miscommunication, whether a deal happened and people pulling back, whether it's you or the team. So what is one advice? Like, how do you navigate dealing with difficult people as an entrepreneur? And what is one advice you would give to like other entrepreneurs as far as like dealing with people and also maintaining the quality and the value of your brand?
So in terms of quality, we don't compromise with that. I think it's so important. I'd rather take a loss than send a mediocre product out to anybody. I think it's important for integrity. I think it's important for those are kind of, I think every brand has like their value proposition, and that's one of our ones. In terms of dealing with difficult people, most time it's breakdown with communication. So really tracking it to where did that happen? Is it that they expected the stock at some point in time, or there's a delay? You just had snow in New York and, like just weather crisis and stuff. So it's like, what can we do and how much communication can we have so that people are not upset? But you always want to maintain that bigger person rather than scribbling a lie just because the internet never forgets. So it's so important to always put your best foot forward.
Yeah.
If anybody is just coming in and this is their first impression of your brand, because you don't make a second first impression. So it's like, how do you want them to perceive you? So yeah, it's definitely living and learning, quickly to apologizing, quickly to really kind of like, where did we go wrong? We did go wrong. And just try to fix it. It doesn't happen again. I think those are the kind of like ways to deal with it. Absolutely.
Outside of, the fun part, I just, my experience, I grew up around Nigerians. It's my childhood best friend, like kindergarten, and literally was Yoruba. So always going home, doing sleepovers, showing the culture, eating the food. And, as I grew up, I just always kept like people around me. However, when I went to Nigeria, I experienced some things. And, when I was blogging, I made certain comments, right, about the reality of the state of this country, whether it was the traffic or whether it was, just the way people think sometimes like the market, right? Auntie, this tomato now, this is 100 naira. How you charge me 500 naira? So those little complaints, but to my surprise, I got a reaction that was, I kept my blog up because it was genuine, right? But it was very interesting because it wasn't the only person. It was about 10 people. And the reaction was, oh, why are you down talking Nigeria? Why are you showing the bad part of Nigeria? Why are you making us look bad? And I'm like, sorry, I'm not even Nigeria. I'm just being honest about my experience. Yeah, so being able to like be transparent and really show the good and the ugly of a journey, of a process, I believe is very empowering.
I think it's so important. And honestly, Nigerians, we are very proud of where we come from. I cannot imagine being any other, nationality. But yeah, I think there's just that, national pride. That's also a protecting mechanism of people. Like once you say something, like, as anybody would about their place. So, but yeah, definitely storytelling requires, or especially if you're going to that journalism or just really showing how things are run, that you don't have any motive or you're not doing it. But you see some creators that you could tell they went there intentionally with that objective. They're not showing any other thing but negativity. Then there's definitely what's flagging. Like, come on, dude. Like, yeah, you're not. It's clear. Like, this is not ideal. But if you're a balance, I was doing the right thing, then hey, why not?
Yeah, I love that. I see you have a brand called Nubi.
I do.
See, we represented the brand pretty well. Very important.
Even you unconsciously came with know the purple. We love it.
So, what is Lumi? I saw, it's about kids, educating kids to be bold. But tell me a little bit more about Lumi. What is it about? What made you start this brand? What was the process? How is that going for you? I love this question.
Lumi was a brand born out of love. For a long, long time, I thought women were my target audience, just encouraging and empowering them that they can go the distance, they can travel, they can explore, they don't have to get their box in. But I was like, wow, this whole characteristic of, audacity, being a global explorer can be taught much younger. Like kids are really smart and they are quite curious as well. So we can really plant that seed. A bit on a personal story. When I relocated to UK at the age of 10, I was bullied because of the color of my skin. I was called bullied, fresh off the boat, kids can be me as well. So I retired to the library. So the library was my silence. I discovered quickly that books don't judge and books don't call you mean names and there can be that. And the books I gravitated to were travel books. And it's so crazy that 20 decades, 2 decades later, I am now visited a lot of those countries I read about. So I know about the power of planting seeds quite young and representation and people seeing that they can go and they can do these things. So that's what the Lumi brand is about. It's about discovering a problem whereby our kids don't know a lot about the continents, the African continent. You go to schools and you ask children, where's your dream destination? And the hands shoots up and they go, America, Canada, Australia. These are all incredible places. But what about where they're from? What about Zimbabwe, South Africa? And, why are they not mentioned in those places? Because the media they consume is westernized. They consume Bluey, Perfect Pictorial Explorer, which are all great. But we need our own kids' entertainment brand. So Lumi is a product that you can play with, read about, watch on TV. And she goes on amazing adventures and learn about being courageous and meet incredible things. And that's what we're building. And it's been such a joy.
Girl, you made me want to start a Lumi. I love that.
And honestly, adults or kids are telling us, Lumi is for kids, but she's so cute.
Literally.
Adults are getting up because we have like different sizes. We have the big plush, and we have like the small one. And so all said, when is a labubu when you can have a Lumi? She's a perfect key charm, or your backpack, your key holder. And it's really just a reminder that small can be mighty. Because when I started this journey, everybody told me I needed 4x4, big wheels, big car. And I didn't have that. I had the Peugeot 107, a tiny city split.
Yeah, I love it.
And it got me there. So a lot of people forget that they have something tangible in their hands right now that they can use. If we're speaking to creators, I'm like, yes, the fancy cameras here are incredible, but what about your phone? The stuff you have right now, start your pocket, start exactly where you are. Yeah, that's the reminder.
I love this. That. No, I do, because I love that. So is there like an age limit? Is it for kids from this age to this age?
Honestly, I have gotten, because now we're doing school programs too, as well, so doing those of activations, so kindergarten all the way to, grade 5. But as I said, it's a message of resilience and stuff. So teachers sitting and they're like, I know this was for the kids, but I'm 40 and I took something home with me today. So it's such a diverse age, but for the kids, because it's a picture book. So between the age of 0 to about 7, 8, will benefit from the first. But the plan is to have multiple books and multiple episodes that they can watch.
I believe I love it more because now, I don't know about any other country, but right now in America, there are a lot of states that do not teach kids about Black History. I go to school day. She comes home and I'm like, okay, it's Black History Month. What you learn? Hooray. The whole month of pepper. Nothing. And I'm like, they talk to you about Madam C.J. Walker? Rosa Parks? Wow. Like there's, I don't really know what the objective is. But for now, I know we definitely need our own books, yes, our own a way of educating our kids that is not like the norm. That is not new school. That is not tutoring or online digital learning. Yeah, but something created by us.
Yeah, by us for us. Of course. And honestly, even just parents in diaspora, we're living in such a global economy and they still want to find a way to connect back home. And it's a message, it's such a global message. The diversity in the storytelling, because I want kids from other backgrounds to also say, hey, I live at Louis, I can be great too as well. So it really opens up that door of them being curious about our continent as well. So yeah, I think there's definitely a lot of leverage. Jay's possibilities, the possibilities endless.
Actually, I would say sometimes you have to be a little bit delusional. Oh, a little bit, a lot.
The fact you use that word, that's like my life motto. Literally, delusional determination. Literally, it's like you do not take no for an answer. If you watch Mr. Beast, for example, I feel like life is like those people. When you say you hold on to the car and but the last person, like it's literally a game of the last man standing. Yeah, entrepreneurship is that battleground of, you know what, you will be called crazy. Yep. Like I've also been even though what has called you crazy this year, you're not late live to say. Like I would repeat that. If nobody has called you crazy this year, you are playing live to say. Like it's so important because it means that you are basically doing something that people have not even planned up. They never had a chance to think about it. You are out there carving that path and going for it. And that is paving the way. It's like when you're bootstrapping it and you're literally figuring out every single day. Like this is testing. I've never done a toy business or entertainment. I've never written the children's book. That stuff is hard. But distilling information to, a few word, comprehensive word, and just really how exactly is this impactful for the next generation? But yeah, delusional. And like you said, the magic isn't doing. That's another one tag on my, like you really have to take action. You cannot fine tune or something that you haven't even done yet. So it's really taking those proactive steps. Is quite important. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I love that. My mentor always say success, love, execution. You're not executing, it's biggest success.
And as someone of faith, we talk about faith. In terms of faith, I literally cannot have done this without God. Like he is the magic sauce, he is the secret sauce. Like I am literally just a person being used by me. And there is just that calm and knowingness that it all works out at the end. I think there's definitely that factor that cannot be removed. People say luck, some people say privilege. I say the God factor is literally the base, the sauce, the sprinkle, everything. But yeah, I'm just so grateful, so happy that because with entrepreneurship, it's that uncertainty and it's so easy to feel like your world is literally up. Good days and bad days, and it can be like you're this roller coaster, or with that anchoring, it's just a little bit more bearable.
I really wanted people to hear, because you build a great brand and you're building an even greater brand with UB. And a lot of time people just see the work that goes on the front end. They see the nice pictures, they see the travel, they see the nice packages, right? But they don't really see the work that goes on the back edge. And although it is physical work, I believe business and entrepreneurship is very spiritual, right? If you don't have that foundation, you cannot make it. So I just needed it to hear out of me herself. Like, we look very confident. Yeah, we look like we have it all figured out. Yeah. But sometimes people just want to hear that you don't have it all figured out.
No, I think it's very clear. And I think that content style has been going quite viral, or founder series where people show the transparency, the panic, the uncertainty that comes to entrepreneurship, the conversation, do you want to bring VC in, on, funding in and stuff like that? Like, what exactly does it take? And it is hard, this conversation about quit your 9 to 5 and when you should do that. And, I know that entrepreneurship has been glamorized quite a bit, but I feel make sure you know what you're getting yourself into. There is a joy in it. Trust me, every time a kid picks up a Pelumi, I cannot tell you that story. Every time I finish a school session, well, like, are you tired? I'm like, I could run the marathon right now. Like, the amount of energy you guys are just giving. So yeah. So do not take away from all of those positivity, but the hardness of it, the sacrifice you have to give, is so important, and I think you don't want to underestimate that too as well. You have to have a level of capacity or get a community and people around you just so that you're able to do that. But I feel a lot of people do have that opportunities. We're talking about virality, and a lot of creators go viral and they just kind of hide after that. And it's like, no, don't go viral and go quiet. That is where you leverage on it. And knowing that the social media spaces you have is more of a rental space. Yeah. So how do you have ownership? IP creation. That was what Numi was to me. So when I finished London to Lagos, I became the Lagos State Tourism Ambassador. I worked to Spirit's brand. And also the car itself is housed in the museum. So that museum is called John Randall in Lagos. It has about 10,000, 100,000 foot traffic, a year coming and going. And, how do we then leverage this to create a brand from it? So when you go viral, what can you do? What product can you create? What can, we spoke about attention being that new currency. Don't just gain attention and lose it. What can you take from it? The community you build, how do you serve that? And I think the thing that have kept me going for the longest time is every day I wake up and I think, how can I be of service to one person? If you have that hard posture of service, you will go the distance because it's not about the money. The money is important. Don't misquote me because, you do need that financial backing for every other thing you want to do, the impact work, that's all that. But if you come from a hard posture of service, of being right and true to what you want to do and shutting out the naysayers. You will hear so much naysayers. You will hear them panic. But remember, they are only speaking from their own lens of experience. You need to know. It's just like driving right now. If I say I'm driving 7 hours, it's light work for me, because I've done London to Lagos. So imagine it's like you need to know what your bandwidth is so that you don't pick people's else limitation on yourself as an entrepreneur. You cannot inherit other people's fear. You cannot inherit other people's limitations. You need to know what you are able to do. And that's why experimentation is so important. Trying new things, going after new things. But yeah, I'm here cheering you on. It's not easy, but it's definitely worth it. It is so, is it true?
Yeah. So if you, on this topic, if there's one thing you had to tell the audience or to you right now that they should take hope from this particular thing you just said, what is that one thing?
Is something I've said here. The magic is in the doing. It's not in the thinking, it's not the wishing, it's not in the wanting, it's not in the waiting. It is in the action. By trying, you collect data, you're able to experiment, you're able to try again, you're able to fix things and just keep improving. But if you never tried, we never know. So the magic is truly in the doing.
So when your passport finally rests, right? I'm going to say your passport because when you're passionate and you're determined about something, right? It's not just in that season. You've been reading travel books since you was tech, right? And now it's like 2 decades later, you're actually living what you used to read, right? So now, 2 decades from now, what do you want people to remember you as? What is that legacy you want to leave behind for your kids and for the
travel is the thing I've been able to express myself with. But I know it's a privilege that some people might never get to have. So the message really has always been beyond that. That yes, we live in a better, beautiful world, and it's a joy to be able to do this. But I want to be remembered as a person who just did it, people. And if I became that representation, because I know the power of the backs and seeing someone that looks like do something, I hope I can literally had someone that permissionlessly for them to go after that they intestines or created to do relentlessly.
I take it.
You take it. That's the permissionlessly right there, girl.
So that brings us to our last question, which is, so in this next season that you're going into, what is one thing you're looking forward to? And what is one thing you are holding on to?
The young Pelumi, that 10 years old girl, she will always be there, that curiosity. I never want to lose that. I never want to use that. I never want life to take that away from me, just being fearful thing. I don't want that childlike wonder of places I go to and not say, oh, I've been there, or become a snob and, just another travel day. No, I always want to be I'm still that person that looks out the window. I never want to lose that. That will always be part of me. And what I'm excited about for the future is just the brand. Brand is growing wings and I just want to see her fly. And I want to see her in those of diverse set of people. He's watching her on TV screen, on a big adventure, how becoming that global name and household name, where truly over millions in numbers. So yeah, I'm really just excited about everything that she could become. The sky's the limit, or the stars are the limit. I'm just excited.
I'm excited right with you, girl. Okay, so last one, and then we close out. But me, to everybody listening to you right now, everybody that is building something, trying to grow in or out of something, what is one last thing you want to say to them as they go into this?
Build knowing that of a mistake made. Build knowing that you would use money. I've done that. Build knowing that this is probably the first time you're doing it. So give yourself that grace to learn, to improve, to get better. Build with excitement. Build with joy. Build with, there's patient that works out as well. And yeah, I know I'm cheering you on. And my DMs and emails are wide open if you have any questions. But yeah, I'm excited for everything you're building and continue to be that builder at heart that you are.
I love it. It was such a pleasure having you here with us today. And yeah, I wish you all the best.
Love you, sis.
And this is Kaiverse. We'll see you in the next